What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Dungeon Master Experience. In this video, we're diving into the fantastic Dungeon Master Experience articles by Chris Perkins, one of the lead designers of Dungeons & Dragons. We'll explore his invaluable insights and advice to enhance your skills as a Dungeon Master and create unforgettable D&D experiences for your players. Alright guys, the next article is called Instant Monster, and it's from March 17th, 2011. Here we go. Monday night. Our heroes are 23rd level, fighting mind flayers aboard an illithid vessel on the Dragon Sea. The mind flayers are tied to one of the campaign's big story arcs involving a war between the almighty Dragovar Empire, ruled by Dragonborn, and the upstart Myrthon Regency, a vassal state of the Imperial Commonwealth that has declared its independence. It's a familiar tale with a D&D twist. Around 11th level, the heroes learned a major campaign secret. The Myrthon Regency was being influenced by mind flayers and other forces from the far realm. Knowing that most mind flayers fall in the level 18 to 20 range in 4th edition, my players started getting nervous by the time they reached 16th level. For my part, I'd expected mind flayers to start showing up around 19th or 20th level. As it turns out, through no fault of the players, the Monday night heroes really didn't get around to fighting their first mind flayers until now. One of the dangers of running a complex campaign is that it's easy for the party to become involved in certain unfolding stories and not others. By the time the mind flayers were back on the menu, the heroes had gained a bunch of levels. Consequently, the monsters I'd planned for them to fight were now several levels below the party average. Solving this problem demanded special DM ninja skills and took a lot less time than you might think. Alright, so that's pretty cool. So we've got characters that basically out-leveled the adventure area that Chris Perkins had planned for them. So now they're 23rd level, and the monsters that they were going to fight are kind of more intended for like 19th or 20th level, I guess. So he's going to probably, I would guess, scale up the mind flayers. Let's see how he does it. Welcome to the microwave dinner approach to monster design. By the end of this column, you'll have a new DM superpower, the ability to create a monster of any level, quote unquote, on the fly in 2 minutes or less. And by create, I mean customize. As much as I love creating new monsters from scratch, my favorite D&D activity, in fact, outside of actually running a game, it's usually unnecessary. Most players sitting on the other side of the DM screen can't tell the difference between a monster you created from scratch and an existing monster that's been modified to suit your needs. So you should only create monsters from scratch when you have the time or want to try something weird. This article presents two simple and effective ways to customize a monster. Take a monster and adjust its level, or turn a monster into another monster of the same level. Alright, here we go. The Perkinsian Approach to adjusting a monster level. Oh, so we got a new vocabulary word, guys. Perkinsian. We're going to have to start using that one, I guess, to describe different things. So, tuck that one away. Alright, my approach to adjusting a monster's level isn't mathematically perfect, but it serves the needs of most DMs. The ultimate goal is to tweak a monster so that it's level appropriate and doesn't cause players to shout WTF during the game. This approach has 3 easy steps. For each level, you add or subtract, increase or decrease the monster's defenses and attack bonuses by 1. Increase or decrease the monster's hit points by 10. 2 times for elites, 4 times for solos. If you're feeling finicky, make that 6 for artillery and lurkers, 8 for controllers, skirmishers, and soldiers. Just remember, this exercise is about easy math, not pinpoint accuracy. So that's a whole bunch of 4th edition jargon right there that, quite honestly, I don't understand. But I think the point he's getting at is just add or subtract a set number of hit points and have kind of a cookie cutter formula. So say, if you want to add a level to a monster, add 10 hit points. All right, and the next bullet point here is increase or decrease the monster's damage by 1. If you're making a minion, its damage is usually around 4 plus 1/2 the monster's level. Minion brutes deal about 25% more damage on top of that. So basically, to do it like in 5th edition, so I guess what you would do is say you have, I don't know, an orc. I don't know the stats of an orc, but say you want to level it up by add 3 levels to that orc. So you just increase its armor class by 3, increase its attack bonus by 3, and increase its hit points by 30. Man, that seems like a lot. You'd have to play with these numbers. I see what he's getting at. So you come up with a little system to quickly, like back of the napkin math, to boost or nerf your little monster. Okay, so let's move on. Don't bother adjusting the monster's initiative modifier, skill modifiers, or ability score modifiers unless you're a stickler for detail. These sorts of changes have little discernible impact on a monster's combat performance, at least from the player's point of view. If the encounter warrants it, increase or decrease these values by 1 for every 2 levels you add or subtract, and be done with it. Here's the Dalgaunt Monk from the Eberron campaign guide and the dirt simple level adjusted version I used in the Mind Flared adventure sprung on my players. Guess we got a Dalgaunt Monk, level 8 controller, medium aberrant humanoid blind. Okay, so we got an entire stat block here. I'm not going to read the stat block, but let's just compare and contrast that stat block to the adjusted one. Okay, so it's level 8 in the initial stat block, and it's going to be level 21 in the adjusted stat block. So he's increased the hit points from like 86 all the way up to 216. He's increased its armor class from 22 to 35. So these are big numbers here in 4E. So in 5th edition, we have what's called bounded accuracy. If you're not familiar with that, basically they squished all the number bonuses down so that it didn't get into where people are having plus 17 to attack and stuff like that. And that's why you don't have plus 5 swords, you have plus 3 swords. So adjusting the numbers this much in 5th edition would totally break it, but you could do it by much less, you know. But I think the real way to do it is what they're probably going to get at in this next part, and that's reskinning, which is what I do in my games. Like, for example, my players fought giant rats that were the size of a polar bear. And guess what stat block I used? The polar bear. Very simple. But, you know, from their perspective, it's a giant rat. It just has the stats of a polar bear and the experience points of a polar bear, that kind of thing. The next technique is the Perkinsian approach to turning one monster into another. As Jack Burton, Chris Perkins always says, you can't judge a monster by its level. At least most players can't. What makes a monster memorable is its shtick. In other words, the 1 or 2 powers and or traits that truly define what the monster does. As long as you're happy with the monster's attacks and powers, it doesn't matter where the rest of its stats come from. First, find a monster of the role and level you need, preferably one that has at least 1 attack power or trait worth keeping, and do the following. Give the monster a new name. Ignore any of the monster's powers or traits that are inappropriate or undesirable. If you're feeling creative, and only if you're feeling creative, give the monster a new trait or power, and by new, I mean something you've invented on a whim or something lifted from another critter. Having trouble finding a monster of the appropriate role and level? Try surfing the creatures by level charts at the back of every 4th edition monster book we've ever produced. Or better yet, use the D&D Compendium online tool. I'll be the first to admit it. This approach to monster customization is the D&D equivalent of stealing someone else's homework, erasing that person's name, and writing your name on it instead. Appropriate behavior for your home campaign only. Here's the Infernal Giralon from the Monster Manual 3, transformed into a foul-spawn terror Hulk for my Monday night campaign. So we've got a stat block of a level 22 Brute Infernal Giralon, and then a transformed stat block for the foul-spawn terror Hulk. Basically, with just a few changes, he just reskinned it. And that's what I was talking about, like with the giant rat polar bear thing. I do the same thing, and on the fly too. You'd be amazed if you just take a monster and use the stats of a troll, and you've got a really cool regenerating monster. And it don't even have to be a humanoid. You know, you could have some sort of crazy jungle tiger that regenerates, but has the stats of a troll. You know what I mean? It's really easy to do. And the players will be engaged because it's like new content that, you know, everybody knows what a troll is. Everybody knows what a orc is, but you get these new monsters. It's kind of cool, man. And it brings some personalization to your campaign. All right, let's keep on going. The two-fanged strike of monster customization. And so it says, if you feel like flexing your DM Ninja skills, try using both approaches on one monster. Here's an example of a monster that I wanted to include aboard my Mind Flayer ship, but was the wrong level and a bit too complex for my tastes. A Dolgrim warrior is basically 2 goblins fused together, and I wanted my version to be a minion with traits that preserve the monster's shtick. The traits I ultimately gave the monster were inspired by the racial powers of elves and halflings. The end result. And here we've got a couple of stat blocks where he essentially reskinned a Dolgrim warrior into a Dolgrim pest and leveled it up with stat adjustments and changed some of the abilities. So that's pretty cool. You can do that too. So back to my giant rat polar bear example, you know, say I said that the rat was twice as big as a polar bear. Well, now I can take the polar bear stat block and just, you know, add some hit points, maybe add a little bit of damage. And of course, it's worth extra XP if they kill it. So here we go with lessons learned from Chris Perkins. Let's see what he says. Is use your newfound DM superpower freely and often until it becomes as easy as breathing. Mastery comes quickly. In very little time, you'll be able to customize monsters on the fly while still keeping your players on their toes. The truth is, you should never have to create a monster stat block unless you really want to. Don't believe me? Take any monster stat block that's been published and do the following. Write down the monster's name and a page reference. Make a short list of the custom changes you want to make to the monster. Run the monster using the old stat block and your short list of notes. Your players will either believe that you're running a monster right out of the book, or they'll think they're fighting something new. Either way, they're overjoyed, and you didn't kill yourself in the process. Until the next encounter. That was actually a really good one, and it covered some stuff that I do in almost every game session, which is reskinning monsters. Now, thanks for listening to the end of this video. And if you're interested in these kind of videos where I'm going through the Dungeon Master Experience blog posts like this, I'm putting them all on a playlist. So if you want to listen to all of them, you can go find that playlist on my channel and just boom, hit play through all of them. And I'm going to keep adding these on and on until I finish this whole PDF. This PDF is 381 pages and I'm on page 14. So we got a ways to go. But anyway, if you like the video, click like, let me know. If anybody likes it, I'm going to keep making them. I don't care if it's just one person out there that likes listening to these. Y'all have a good one.